Hi, everybody. Welcome. And thank you so much for joining me. I'm coming to you live from My Therapy NYC. My name is Nikki Luton, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker and a therapist here at My Therapy NYC. We provide mental health and wellness services to New York, and I'm so glad that you guys could join me today. Please check out our website at www.mytherapynyc.org to find out more about the services that we provide, including individual and couples counseling, groups, wellness workshops, and much more. So today I wanted to do this webinar because I find that so many people struggle with how to manage their time. People often have difficulty becoming more efficient and productive in their daily life, and they wonder why they can't seem to get done everything that they want to, no matter how hard they try. So in today's webinar, we're going to learn how you manage your time, and I'm going to provide you with tips to improve your time management skills. You can see here on the right that there's a place to ask questions, so please feel free to write questions as I go on, and I'll be sure to answer as many as I can at the end. So let's get started. So again, today we're going to learn how to master time management. I'm sure that everybody can relate to feeling that no matter how hard you try, your to-do list just keeps on growing and piling up. So the question is, how can we fix this? How can we manage our time more efficiently to feel more successful in our daily lives? Time management allows you to work smarter rather than longer to accomplish your work. So what are the goals of today? The first goal is that we're going to identify our current time management patterns. I believe that the first step in change is to really understand our individual habits and patterns. Because once we have a more realistic view on the choices we make each day, that's when we can begin to modify our habits to become more efficient in the things that matter most to us. Today, we're also going to recognize common barriers to productivity. We're going to learn what's getting in the way. You're going to be able to develop skills to avoid distractions. We're going to learn how to create realistic and attainable goals. And we're going to learn some general tips to become more productive. So why does this all matter? Poor time management creates a lot of stress and chaos. There are some obvious benefits to mastering your time. Learning to manage your time will make you more efficient in your daily life. You're going to feel more successful seeing that progress is being made. And without all that extra stress, you're generally going to feel healthier and in a more optimistic mood. You'll discover that you have more time in your day to do things that are actually important to you. So for example, many people I know wish that they had more time to spend with their friends and with their family, or to squeeze in a workout, or to see a movie that they've been meaning to see. Learning how to manage your time better could potentially afford you those extra hours each day or week for leisurely activities and doing the things that are really important to you. So we're going to take a few minutes to talk about the barriers to productivity. It's really important to identify our personal obstacles to productivity so that we can begin to strategize ways to overcome them. Here, I've listed some common things that I think that we can all relate to, that we all share, that often get in the way of our efficiency. And the first thing that I want to talk about is interruptions. There are so many distractions throughout the day, and sometimes we really can't control them. You are the master of your own time. So even if you can't control the distraction, you can control how long you let that interruption take over. Don't let people take that away from you. So for example, if someone walks into your office and they distract you by chatting about their weekend or their kids, after a few minutes, you may want to slowly stand up, gradually walk towards the door. This allows the person, without being rude, to know that you're done with the conversation and that they need to leave your office. Another very common interruption is our own electronics. When you're working on something important, turn off your electronics. How many times have you been in the middle of accomplishing something and your phone rings? You probably lost your train of thought and couldn't get back to where you were. Or you allowed yourself to be distracted with whomever called and you ended up wasting some precious time. Turn off all the notifications and the alerts on your phones, on your GChat, social media, tablets, emails, everything. This is going to allow you to stay more focused on the task at hand without getting pulled away every few minutes. Another common barrier to productivity is not getting enough sleep. Don't stay up all night trying to cram in your work. We are more productive after a good night of rest. Your body will feel rejuvenated and fresh, and you'll be more likely to be alert and ready to tackle the next day. Next, I want to talk a little bit about multitasking. It's a common myth that we should all learn how to multitask. It's just not true. Multitasking doesn't work. You may think you're great at juggling a million things at once, but the truth is, you need to remain focused on one task at a time. It's far more efficient to concentrate fully and completely on one task. You'll find that you have fewer distractions and you'll actually complete that task in less time, giving you more time to then move on to another. Another barrier to productivity is your inability to say no. Creating boundaries and being assertive is an essential aspect in your productivity. You cannot say yes to everything. And you really need to understand when it's in your best interest to politely but assertively say no to somebody. I'm sure that we can all remember a time when you're accomplishing a task, you're working hard on something, and someone, whether it be a coworker, a partner, a family member, they come in, they interrupt you, and they ask you to do something for them that you just don't have time in that moment to do. It's okay in these situations to say no. Try saying, I'm really sorry, but I can't help you right now. I'm finishing a project that needs to be done by the end of the day. It's really that simple. Taking on too many tasks at once takes away from our priorities, and you'll end up spreading yourself too thin. If you want to learn more about ability to say no and being assertive, you can check out our website for a few blogs that I've written on this topic. And the last barrier to productivity that I'm going to talk about today is not allowing for any downtime. If we're all work and no play, our bodies are going to begin to shut down. It's important to remember to take small breaks throughout the day for self-care. And self-care is something that I'm going to talk a lot about at the end as well. So now that you've thought about these obstacles, I want you to really think about which of them pertain to your own life. Once you're able to identify that there are obstacles and you recognize that they're negatively affecting your time, this is when you can begin to overcome them. So I'm going to encourage everybody to find some sort of log that looks similar to what you're looking at now and start monitoring yourself in 30-minute increments for 5 consecutive days. And I know this might be hard, it sounds like a lot, but the best way to keep track of your time is to try to update your log every 30 minutes rather than at the end of the day. This is going to give you the most accurate picture. If you wait till 11 p.m. and you try to fill in all these gaps, you're likely going to forget the 15-minute distractions here and there that you gave into throughout the day. So again, you're going to find a log similar to this, and you're going to track for 5 consecutive days every 30 minutes of your day. This will help you begin to recognize some of your daily behaviors, and it's going to show you how much time you're wasting on unproductive thoughts and conversations. You're going to be surprised by how much time you're wasting. I bet you begin to notice that you do very similar routines every day, and that there are certain times of the day that you're more likely to complete certain tasks, while there are other times of the day where you're totally unproductive. So let's say you take a look and you realize that every day for 20 minutes after lunch, you're totally unproductive and you don't get anything done. This is probably a good time for you to, this is probably a bad time for you to have an important meeting on your schedule or to start a really important task. So you get to learn your patterns and your behaviors by monitoring them. So being aware of what you do with your time is really the first step in learning how to become more efficient. It's very common to feel like there's not enough time to accomplish everything you want to get done in one day. However, if you're motivated, if you're organized, and if you're aware of your own strengths and weaknesses, you're going to be able to really increase your productivity. So after tracking your behavior for a few days, you're going to look at your log and you're going to ask yourself the following questions. What time of day are you most productive? And is there a time of day that you're the least productive? What are you doing that isn't necessary? Maybe you find that you're sleeping for 12 hours a day and you didn't even realize it. So this log will help you find patterns like that. You're going to ask yourself, what can I delegate? What are things that could be done by somebody else? And lastly, you're going to look over it and you're going to say to yourself, what are you doing that's wasting time and needs to change immediately? So now that you understand how you're spending your day, let's take a look at how you're organizing yourself. Because time management, it's really all about organization. You have to find what works best for you, and it's going to be different for everybody. I know some people who find it helpful if they work on a task for 30 minutes, they have an alarm go off after 30 minutes. And when that alarm goes off, it gives them the heads up that it's time to move on to their next task. Perhaps you put a daily calendar next to your bed, and when you go to bed at night, you jot down a few things, and then in the morning, it's the first thing you wake up to, and you are aware of all the things that you need to do. Maybe you're the type of person that organizes themselves best with pen and paper, and you create lists on Post-its all over your desk and computer, or maybe you're someone who prefers an electronic planner or the calendar in your email. Whatever works, start writing down your lists. I personally find it helpful to write small things in my calendar for a very specific time of day so that I don't put it off. So for example, I might write down at 10 a.m. that I need to call a client and at 4:15 p.m. that I need to email my boss. This really helps me to organize my time throughout the day because I set clear times to do the small stuff. So now we're going to talk about tackling your to-do list. It's really common to be completely intimidated by a daunting to-do list. I often hear people complain that their to-do list is never ending. It's growing by the minute and people have no idea where to begin. Well, in order to be the most efficient, we really need to learn how to prioritize. So look at your list and determine what is the most important. So one of the ways that you can do that is by asking yourself, what has short-term consequences that must get done today? Ask yourself, what can someone else do for me? What on this list can I delay to another time? And now you've started to prioritize. You're going to pick one task at a time that falls into the essential category for that day. I would encourage you to try to start with the most daunting task first to get it out of the way. And what you're going to do is you're going to take this big, scary task and you're going to break it into smaller pieces by creating small steps necessary to achieve the overall goal. You're going to take this one task and put a time limit on it. Basically, what you're doing here is you're changing your to-do list into an appointment book. You're scheduling an appointment with yourself to begin this essential task. So you're saying that today at 9 a.m., I am starting a specific project and I'm going to work on it till 10:30 a.m. Creating time blocks for high priority tasks, it makes them way more likely to be achieved. Trying to aim for anything more than one task at a time, it's just too much. It's unrealistic. And that goes back to multitasking. Remember, it's important when you're prioritizing your to-do list to keep your overall goals in mind and to keep your tasks in line with these goals. I find it helpful to spend the first 30 minutes of my day planning out exactly when I'm going to tackle each item on my to-do list. While prioritizing, I find it very helpful to make sometimes more than one list. So maybe I'll have a list that needs to be done today, and another list that needs to be completed by the end of the week, and perhaps the third list that I would like to accomplish by the end of the month. This really organizes me, and if I check these lists on a regular basis, then I'm able to move tasks from one list to another in a very orderly fashion as time progresses. And something that I love personally is that I love crossing things out when I'm done. I think it's very therapeutic, and I'm able to see that I've accomplished something, I cross it out, and I move on to the next. So what we're really talking about here is learning to recognize the difference between essential and non-essential. And this is critical in time management, and it may take some practice. You really can't let yourself get bogged down by the extra stuff that don't align with the bigger picture. Even if things come up throughout the day, remember to stick to the task at hand and stay true to your to-do list. And sure, there may be times that you need to reprioritize or squeeze something in that you weren't planning on, but you chose that one task that you're working on for a reason. So stay focused on it until it's accomplished and then move on to the next. So a very important strategy for managing our time is setting clear goals with ourselves. All of you chose to listen to today's webinar because it's really hard to effectively manage our time. So let's take a step back for a moment and look at the bigger picture here. Why do you want to be better at managing your time? Is it so you can leave work earlier and spend more time with your family? Is it so you have more time to go to the gym or to cook dinner at night? Or maybe it's so that you're more productive at work and you can prove to your boss that you can handle that promotion. Whatever your reason is for wanting to be more efficient, it's important to keep that in mind. We all need motivation. We all need motivation to stay true to our goals, and reminding ourselves of our long-term goals for wanting to manage our time better may actually be helpful in getting it done. So, in addition to keeping these bigger goals in mind, it's equally important to have short-term goals. Something I do that's very helpful is I take a few minutes before starting a new task, and I think about what the end goal is. What am I trying to achieve? What does success look like for this task? I'm specific, and I always put a time limit on it. If I'm leading a professional meeting, I set goals, and I make sure everybody is clear on when the meeting is, where is it located, the purpose of the meeting, and what we're trying to achieve today. This is going to allow me to stick to the agenda without getting off topic. And that sort of leads to another point of respecting other people's time. So I know in this example that I need to respect my colleagues' time because they've scheduled this meeting into their day, into their agendas. So if I mismanage the meeting, I've now affected their schedules, their appointments, and their time management. So this is just one example of how setting goals, whether they be the big picture goals or smaller, is really important in managing our time. So this brings me to the last thing I want to talk about today, which is self-care. Our days are all very hectic and they're full of professional and personal obligations. You will be the most efficient version of yourself if you allow for self-care throughout the day. So what does this mean? You need to learn to balance work and play so that you don't forget about the things that are truly important to you. So here are some general tips to make sure you're taking care of yourself. As mentioned before, you want to get enough sleep. Additionally, you want to be mindful. You want to be present with the task at hand instead of always thinking 2 steps ahead. Allow yourself to live in the moment. You need to allow for downtime in between tasks, and this is really important. You need to give yourself maybe 10 minutes to check your phone and 10 minutes to check your email, or go for a short walk, or read an interesting article. These breaks are so important to give your mind a rest, and they can also serve as great motivation while you're working because you know that there's a reward for completing the task. Remember, you have to give yourself an allotted time frame for these breaks, 5, 10, 15 minutes tops. And you have to have the discipline to really stick to that. It's the only way that the breaks are going to work. And lastly, but possibly most importantly, You need to remember to celebrate your successes. Celebrate your accomplishments and your progress. Don't be so hard on yourself. Acknowledge the tasks that you've completed each day. So we've gone over a lot today. And before I get to questions, I just want to review some of the main points that I went over today. We learned that it's important to prioritize, to figure out what's most important, to ask ourselves what has short-term consequences and needs to be completed today. We talked about how we need to find the right organizational skill for our personal needs. We talked about how we need to concentrate completely on the current task without getting distracted with interruptions and multitasking. We talked about logging to find individual patterns, to look at your productive and unproductive habits so that you can start to change them. You need to set realistic and attainable goals and celebrate your progress and successes. So at this point, I'm gonna read some of the questions that have been posted. So I see here that Jim has asked, what if I don't finish everything that I'm supposed to in one day? Should I build in catch-up time into my schedule, or do you think that that will make me less motivated to finish it in the first place? And that's a great question. I always build catch-up time into my schedule. This is time that I set aside to finish items in my schedule that are taking a little bit longer to complete than I expected. I also make a point to allow time between back-to-back meetings or appointments for overtime and for travel, and this is another good time of day where you can catch up. So remember when I said in the beginning that I take about 30 minutes in my morning and I make my schedule. In that schedule, I definitely put catch-up time throughout the day for things that I didn't get to the day before. So let me look at another question. Sorry, hold on one second. Hello, everybody. So let me see one more question. Juan asks, he says, I really like the point about making time for relaxation. Can you give some ideas about how to make room for small activities to do throughout the week? And so I think that we all have different things that relax us. And one thing that I tell a lot of people to do is to designate about 5 to 10 minutes before you leave your apartment for the day and just do some deep breathing and really just concentrate on the here and now and breathe and become more relaxed before you even begin your day. It's just a nice way to feel fresh and to start your day on a high note. So we're actually almost out of time here. So I just want to remind everyone to go to our website at www.mytherapynyc.com to find out more about the services that we provide. You can find blogs and wellness tips, and you also can find out information on our upcoming webinars in the future. I want to take a few minutes just to thank you guys so much for joining me today and for asking such great questions. I hope that everybody learned something, and I hope that you all have a wonderful night.